Hello, Aaron Mack. Back to detect some more BS. So hold on, let me fix this. I need to do this like before I hit record. Good grief. I've got like an old gaming chair out in the garage. I thought about trying to set up and use that. Anyways, so I finally figured out what was the problem with like my phone. Not like I went through, I got rid of like thousands of pictures. I mean, I think I had like 29, like almost 30,000 pictures and memes and stuff in my phone. So I went through, I got rid of a bunch of that, and then I realized that YouTube had an inordinate amount of stuff. So I chat GPT'd it, and it told me to delete YouTube and re-download it. And sure enough, we got all the room in the world, baby. So I know in the last reading, I did the introduction, and then I started on chapter 1, the counterinsurgency, but I'm just going to start all over with chapter 1, the counterinsurgency, because it cut me off in the middle of it, and I have absolutely no idea where I was. And I was like so annoyed by it that I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to upload the introduction, and we will get on back to the book in a minute. Hold on, my dog is scratching on the door. Okay. So, excuse my hair. I laid down, took a nap, and it's all fuzzy, and I just touched up my makeup, and my face is very shiny today. Whatever. Okay, we are reading the Tavistock Institute, Social Engineering the Masses. And I can already tell you, I had a friend at work try to sub to the channel, and he subbed, and it did not give him an option to even turn on notifications. So already, with 24 subscribers, I'm being shadow banned. Cool. Thanks, YouTube. You guys are the greatest. Anyways, I mean, I could go get on BitChute, but nobody's really on BitChute, and Rumble. Can you just go live on Rumble like at any time? I don't know. I need to look further into this. So anyways, we are going to pick up where I was so rudely interrupted by my phone, and we are going to read chapter 1, counterinsurgency. Techniques for psychological manipulation of society are about as old as humanity itself. Feudal lords, to preserve and consolidate their power forever, have used punishment and torture as dissuasive agents of change. Quote, even thousands of years ago, it was not the techniques per se, but their conscious application as a divide and conquer tool which aided the ruling classes. No matter how anti-human a particular technique or therapeutic, I love that. They're just calling it therapeutic approach may be, it is not itself counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency cannot proceed merely on horrors. It requires conscious and systematic application by the ruling class or its dupes, end quote. This was achieved by fusing psychology and psychiatry in the 1930s. And I feel like still today people don't know the difference. It's like psychology is like talk therapy. Psychiatry, they give you medications that are all very bad for you. So, anyways. Quote, the first massive application of psychology as a conscious weapon took place in Nazi Germany, especially in reference to eugenics, which played upon the most backward Aryan illusions held by and imposed on portions of the masses. While the cause and development of Nazi butchery stemmed wholly from the world economic collapse, its specific form, eugenics, was devised by the Nazis' favorite theoreticians and technicians, quote, the psychiatrists, end quote. So I would just love to like sit here and, these Jays, they pretend like they didn't come up with the whole idea of controlled opposition. And communism was a real big deal, I want to say around that time. As well as fascism. They created both of them. I mean, I think fascism may be more of like a Roman concept, but they all worship the devil, the Catholics and the Jays. So, since then, the quote, science of the mind, end quote, has been converted into the craft of mind destruction. Legitimate therapeutic approaches have given way to behavior modifying pseudoscience in the name of aversion therapy. Yeah, and cognitive behavioral therapy. Anyways, okay. This conversion of the mind science was truly shaped by war. Quote, the war of mental genocide waged by the bourgeoisie against the working class, end quote. And that's talking about what? Communism. That was like during the Bolshevik Revolution. It had nothing to do with Nazis. It had everything to do with communist Jays. The essential premise of the work of Tavistock is the premise that certain kinds of democratic institutions represent far more efficient instrumentalities for fascist dictatorship than the traditional straightforwardly, end quote, authoritarian models. And that's what I was saying yesterday before it so rudely cut me off, that fascism, communism, those are just differences in economics. They're both authoritarian and have dictators. So we don't want either one. Quote, from the great oil hoax and CIA-style brainwashing, the psychological science have followed the route initially outlined in 1945 by Dr. John Rawlings Rees, Grand Master of Psy-War Counterinsurgency, in his book, The Shaping of Psychiatry by War, end quote. Rees called for the development of psychiatric shock troops in order to develop, quote, methods of political control based upon driving the majority of the human population towards psychosis, end quote. And dude, and I'm not trying to say this, when I say y'all, I'm not really talking to you. Most of the people out there, I am a bartender by trade. I talk to a varied plethora of different people. Young, old, liberal, conservative, religious, non-religious, artistic, pragmatic. I mean, and everyone, if you just bring up the topic of Israel, they get so like, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. And it's crazy, the brainwashing that has like happened to most of the West. Like, nobody can have an actual conversation anymore because everybody gets so butthurt. They have, quote, their beliefs that they stick to so strongly that even when someone tries to tell you, no, you're wrong, actually, these are the facts, this is what's really going on, they just get butthurt and they won't talk to you anymore. And that is so immature. Grow up. If someone corrected me when I was wrong, I would thank them. Because I don't want to walk around sounding like a fucking idiot. Anyways. Okay. He proposed this to render the population submissive under the post-World War II economic world order. Okay. And that came about because of the Jays. Remember in the first book that we read, they literally, and their Schmeinist meddling, basically started World War I, and then by the time came around, you know, Germany was ready to just be like, okay, like, y'all can have it, surrender to Britain, and let it be done. But no, they wanted to drag America into the war. So needless people died because Schmeinists are psychotic. And buddy, they love war. I mean, just look at them right now. They have MK Ultra, our president, I'm pretty sure, who's like to freaking Satan Yahoo. I mean, what is going on, bro? Something fucked up is going on right now. And I actually was listening to somebody the other day talk about a White House staffer had come out and admitted, like, back in 2016, I think, that Trump converted to Judaism. So, I mean, and that would make sense because his son-in-law, Kushner, is a Zionist J. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And they're allowed to have dual citizenship, which I find to be so repugnant and uncool. Like, that's not cool, man. That's treasonous. Anyways, let me stop. Reese told a group of U.S. Army psychiatrists in 1945, quote, "If we propose to come out into the open and to attack the social national problems of our day, then we must have shock troops, and these cannot be provided by psychiatry-based wholly in institutions. We must have mobile teams of psychiatrists who are free to move around and make contacts with the local situation in their particular area," end quote. Ree's logic is clear. For true mental health, there must be a complete transformation of society along the lines of rational selection. But, as he laments in his book, quote, "Many don't see the reality this way, including most workers who believe that any method of selection is a mechanism by which the wicked capitalist aims to get more work out of the workers. And that argument dies hard," end quote. Does it, though? In the Reesian worldview, such naysayers, along with anyone who engages in strikes or subversive activity, are themselves neurotic, desperately, quote, "in need of treatment, but unfortunately unable to see that they are ill. In such a world of unwitting neurotic psychiatry, the only arbiter of sanity can be exercised only by a cabal in every country, groups of psychiatrists linked to each other," end quote, "prepared to muster all their weapons and influence for a move," quote, "into the political and governmental field," end quote. Now, I know that a lot of y'all probably don't pay attention to what's going on with, like, Hollywood and stuff, and I only do, like, kind of on the periphery. But I do enjoy watching this girl, BJ. She's got a show called BJ Investigates, and then she's got another channel on here called That Surprise Witness. And her name is Brittany Jean, hence the name BJ. She went to law school at, like, Penn State or whatever, was working as a lawyer at a corporate law firm, and got very interested in the Free Britney movement, okay? Which now in LA, all they have to do is have two people, like two of your family members or your manager and a brother, sister, family member, someone, say that you're unwell up here, and they can come and lock you up as long as they want to. They've done that to Britney. They have done that to Kanye. Now, they've done that to Britney, I think, for the purpose of, like, siphoning off her wealth, because I think she's totally broke now. And then they make her go like a slave and chuck and jive in Vegas or whatever, to keep earning money so that she can fund her parents' lifestyle. Her parents are obviously her handlers. And then Kanye, same with Kanye. I'm pretty sure the Kardashians, Kris Jenner, I mean, this is all alleged, okay? But, like, this is how this works. And if you listen to Randy Quaid from Christmas Vacation, shitter's full. He literally had to flee to Canada because these people were trying to do the same thing to him, throw him in a nut house, and siphon off all his wealth. And let me tell you, there are a lot of evil, blood-sucking lawyers that work for these people. There's some chick named Lou Taylor. She works for TriStar Sports and Entertainment. And she is in charge of, like, a lot of rich people's money. And that she has her own Christian church out there in California. Like, I don't give a damn if anybody says they're a Christian. We judge trees by their fruit, okay? Not by what they say. So, just bear that in mind. This whole psychiatry is being used as a weapon to lock people up against their will without any due process. And this is probably about to happen en masse again, unfortunately. Only, quote, a conspiracy of psychiatrists, end quote, as Rees meant when he spoke of his mission, quote, could build a society where it is possible for people of every social group to have treatment when they need it, even when they do not wish it, without the necessity to invoke the law, end quote. You come trying to mess with my mind, and we're going to have a fight. For Rees, the construction of that cabal became his lifelong mission. As L. Marcus writes in his excellent investigative piece, quote, Reesian methods rely completely and consciously on the destruction of the mental life of world society and a forced march into universal sadism, end quote. Within this lies their affinity. Men as beasts whose minds, according to Tavistock, are something to be manipulated and destroyed. And look what's come out of Tavistock. All this trans crap. I think they're pushing the, diversity is our strength bullshit narrative. Because, I know I spoke about that video of Barbara Spector, a Jewess, who said that, the West has not quite yet learned to be multicultural. And that, we need to be more multicultural, or that's going to be our downfall. And it's like, how ballsy of you to make threats to us. But as far as it goes right now, honestly, I think America's hopeless. Everybody's too brainwashed by sports ball and whatever else their little fucking stupid hobbies are. Read a book, bro. Like, exercise your mind. Think. Stop watching TV. Stop watching the news. They are brainwashing you. Take your mind back. Take your soul back. I mean, golly. Okay, since then, different methodologies of psychological warfare developed at Tavistock Institute have been the central features of the activities of a worldwide set of interlocking think tanks in consultative capacity and special commissions, government agencies, and corporations. Their developmental studies and pilot projects with a clear-cut objective of shaping political techniques of social control. Rees and Tavistock organized their cabal according to public dictum. We are not large but well placed. Rees had a clear understanding of power structures, of organizing key individuals who will in turn spread ideas and influence. And I just want to stop right here and say that all of this is for the purposes of commentary and education through the Fair Use Act. Thank you very much. When we speak of psychological warfare, we are often speaking of ways to make the enemy afraid. And in order to do this, we must understand an enemy's psyche, what makes them love, hate, fight, run. That enemy might be foreign or domestic, an army of men, or an enraged mass of workers. And in order to find an effective antidote, Tavistock and company need to understand how this enemy will react under stress. Will he fight harder or simply surrender? Or will he start making errors in judgment, winning the war for the enemy in a manner of speaking? The costliest mistakes of psychological warfare operations are always those made in ignorance of an enemy's mindset. This implies a deep knowledge of human psychology by Reesian, quote, shock troops. A knowledge which is in itself a kind of black art. And since this is a war of perceptions of, quote, worldviews, it is important that the psychologist and the psychiatrist and the sociologist and the anthropologist, these unidentified little gray men in flannel suits working for Tavistock, understand the impact of art, music, literature, and other cultural modes of expression and how the worldviews are represented by them. So y'all just think, half this music is harmless. No, it is poisoning your mind and your soul. I mean, look at the black community, bro. I'm sorry, but they have done a number on the American black people with this rap shit, this gangster rap. Look how many MFers are in prison right now because they were brainwashed by these stupid songs. And then the psyop is them acting like, oh, that doesn't have anything to do with anything. Oh, really? It doesn't? It doesn't. Yes, the hell it does. Wake up. Now the dog's wanting to go back out. I'll be right back. I love that girl, but she is a mess. She's a spoiled princess. So anyways, where were we? Okay. When we speak of psychological... Okay, no, I already read that. Okay, and in order to find an effective antidote, Tavistock and company need to understand how this enemy will react under stress. Will he fight back harder or simply surrender? Or will he start making errors in judgment, winning the war for the enemy in a manner of speaking? The costliest mistakes of psychological warfare operations are always those made in ignorance of an enemy's mindset. This implies a deep knowledge of human psychology by Bayesian shock troops, a knowledge which is itself a kind of black art. Okay, I already read all this shit. A war of perceptions. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, that's what the TV is. It's a scrying mirror. It's magic. They're doing magic on your brain. I'm just saying. Like, it's not, this is not conspiracy theory. I'm literally reading the book on it right now. And there are some people out there who will still scoff and roll their eyes and act like it's a conspiracy theory. And you people who deny the truth when it is put in front of your face are some of the most obstinate, obtuse, annoying MFers I've ever come across. You ridicule things that you know nothing about. Like, sit down, be quiet, and listen for a minute. And we might be able to come together as a country if we have not been divided by race, sex, political ideology, religion, and any other thing these fuckers can divide us by. I mean, it's just like, come on, people. Let's get it together before they kill us all. I'm sorry, unalive us all. As Peter Lavanda writes, in Sinister Forces, quote, eventually the temptation will arise to test some of these principles on the domestic population. Oh, they've already have. After all, with whose mindset are we the most familiar but our own? What better place to test new theories of psychological warfare than among our native population, end quote. As Rees said in 1945, quote, wars are not won by killing one's opponents, but by undermining or destroying his morale whilst maintaining one's own, end quote. One of the key individuals involved in behavior modification was the psychologist Kurt Lewin. Lewin was the father of group dynamics and one of Rees's first cadre of recruits who began his career at Cornell University, quote, where he worked on a systematic series of studies of the effect of social pressure on the eating habits of children, end quote. And, well, let me keep reading. He came to the United States in 1933. A refugee from Nazi Germany, Lewin, like many other German intellectuals, was forced out of Germany. German intellectuals means J, okay? Just so you know. And they all came here. A bunch of them formed NASA, which has been lying and embezzling billions of dollars every year, just like Schmisriel, okay? These are all the same people, bro. They all practice dark magic. What do you think this is? What do you think this is? It's dark magic. Dressed up as psychiatry. Okay. Sorry. I just get... Ooh, this makes me so mad. It makes me so mad to know this is being done on a worldwide scale and that most of what everyone in the world believes is BS. I cannot wait till I get my little studio set up and I get my little light that flashes when the BS is detected. It's going to be so cool. It's going to be so cool. Don't worry, guys. It's only going to be a matter of time. I am going to get my poop in a group and I'm going to get my little studio put together. But for now, we use the iPhone and this crappy Amazon mic and crappy Amazon ring light. We're doing the best we can with what we have. But I feel like it's really important for people to learn this stuff and nobody reads anymore. James Corbett from the Corbett Report literally just did a video and posted it yesterday that no one is reading anymore. Reading actually doesn't just help you learn things while you're reading. It actually helps your brain stay active. So do yourself a favor, read a book, or you can listen to me read one to you. Anyway. Okay. Okay, so this Lewin guy came to the United States in 1933, a refugee from Nazi Germany. Lewin, like many other German intellectuals, was forced out of Germany, not because of any basic political differences, but as a sacrifice to Hitler's divide and conquer anti-Semitism. which we already know is a meaningless friggin' word. And I told you they were J's. What did I tell you? Hitler was a J himself, so like, what the fuck are we even talking about? He was just not a religious one, just like all the rest of them. They're all atheists. Anyways, Lewin, in fact, is noted for his refinement of the Nazi-formulated leaderless group technique into a sophisticated tool of counterinsurgency. End quote. One of the lesser-known facts of Lewin's work is related to psychological warfare programs, especially showing proper relations between psychological warfare, target setting, field operations, and evaluative reconnaissance. His first overt assignment was to utilize, quote, group decision-making, end quote, in changing food preferences away from, quote, meat towards, quote, whole wheat bread, quote, as substitutes. Still happening today. We've got the Klaus Schwabs of the world now telling you, you will eat the bugs, okay? You'll own nothing, you'll be happy, and you will eat the bugs. Not me. I ain't doing that. The following passage from his book, Time, Perspective, and Morale, illustrates his understanding of psychological warfare. Quote, one of the main techniques for breaking morale through a, quote, strategy of terror, end quote, consists in exactly this tactic. Keep the person hazy as to where he stands and just what he may expect. If in addition frequent vacillations between severe disciplinary measures and promises of good treatment together with spreading of contradictory news make the cognitive structure of the situation utterly unclear, then the individual may cease to even know when a particular plan would lead toward or away from his goal. Under these conditions, even those who have definite goals and are ready to take risks will be paralyzed by severe inner conflicts in regard to what to do, end quote. Lewin's most significant proposal made during the period of World War II and its immediate aftermath was his conception of fascism with a democratic face, which is what we have here in America and what Israel has as their form of government as well. Okay. I mean, and that's what Germany was too. So, I mean, the Jays came up with all this shit. Not just communism. They came up with the whole evil on the left and the right, okay? Where was I? Okay. The common psychopathological feature of all fascist demands is infantilism, who defines himself by his attempts to, quote, impose the principle of the autonomous extended family and to block out the reality, end quote, of the outer world. For example, quote, nationalism, mother country, quote, racialism, mother, quote, language group, mother tongue, quote, cultural affinity group, family traditions, quote, community, extended family, neighborhood. And they've tried to destroy all of this with their open borders, diversity is our strength bullshit. No, it's not. A cohesive society needs to be mostly one culture. That's why Japan has been so strong. But now they've started letting North Africans in. And now look at them. Now just look at them. Anyways. But I think they're actually deporting people. Japan's not playing that shit. All right. Lewin was the first to realize, through close observation of his tested cadres, that the imposition of fascist-like forms of small group organization and corporatist structural reforms can induce fascist ideology in a subject population. Doesn't that sound familiar? Like all of these NGOs and activist groups, and even like Obama, the community organizer. Isn't this all starting to sound real familiar now? In a sane and moral society, Lewin's proposals would be used for toilet paper, and Lewin himself would have been put under protective psychiatric care. No, he'd probably been taken to the firing squad. Instead, he was given a lot of money, U.S. citizenship, and a grant from the Rockefellers to craft social engineering projects. And who are the Rockefellers? Jays. Lewin proposed that through a use of, quote, small group self-brainwashing techniques, a more efficient form of fascist dictatorship could be established. Quote, the ratio and visibility of a horde of jackboot enforcers characteristic of the Nazi regime could be reduced by creating fascist forms of small self-administering, quote, community groups. They see themselves as existing by means of their ability as individuals to influence the behavior of those immediately around them. Think the Kalergi plan. Think Rosa Quarry, the one that just recently died, I think, like during the whole Corona apocalypse. A lot of truth tellers, a lot of people that were exposing a lot of BS died during the Corona apocalypse, and it was very unfortunate. But she was exposing how they would use, not the Kalergi plan, it was called the something method. Anyways, it's used in like small community meetings, like a town hall meeting where somebody comes in and just is a disruptor. And so nothing gets done. Issues don't get solved, and the demons that are trying to pass the crazy legislation in the town get away with it. God, okay, what is the name of that method? I can't think of it. Anyways, but that's what this is making me think of. Okay. The result, thought Lewin, would be a more efficient form of fascist regime with the superficial appearance of a special democratic forms. In other words, quote, if the atomized individual's world is converted into a controlled environment which conforms to such, quote, fascist structural reforms, end quote, the victim's mind will discover that only its potential paranoid self provides it with the means for agreement with that controversial environment, end quote. In other words, fascism is the world desired and the paranoid dreams of the id, which is psychiatry speak. Probably Freudian. Anyways, what is undeniable is that Rees and Tavistock were seriously organizing, quote, a cabal to take over the councils of those who are attempting to reestablish the world after the war, end quote. And that is because these Schmeionists got what they wanted. They got Schmalestein, okay? Britain gave it to them when it was not theirs to give. We've already read all these books. We've already established all those facts, okay? These Jays were behind the formation of this. All right? Okay. What is undeniable is that Rees and Tavistock were seriously organizing a cabal to take over the councils of those who are attempting, to reestablish the world after the war. Given the training of military, psychiatric, and other hardcore fascist cadres, the establishment of a fascist political order would proceed according to Rees-Lewin Tavistockian model in the following steps. And I think that we've heard some of these, I don't know if they're Freemasons, I don't know who they are, but like how, it was one of Obama's favorite rules for radicals, Saul Alinsky, another J. He wrote the book on it. And I guarantee you it's probably word for word similar to this. All right, here's the step one. Break down the existing democratic constitutional institutions. The military and police forces would be reorganized for civil action. That's already happened here, as they are now in the United States. One of the lesser-known actions being readied by the government revolves around the, quote, replacement of ordinary state and local police forces by a national counterinsurgency police force model on Hitler's SD Gestapo and such as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is in Canada, end quote. We already have that. They're already merging IDF with U.S. soldiers here. Like, a lot of BS is happening right now, and games are being played on our minds and with our lives. And if we don't wake up, literally, we're all going to die. It's that serious. At the same time, existing mass institutions would be destroyed by, quote, spontaneously organized insurgency. Local community control groups would be used to destroy broad-based political institutions. Among these recruits to fascist community control, gangs and counter-gangs of terrorists would propagate crime and mutual terroristic confrontations with both sides under the control and direction of the behind-the-scenes intelligence operatives. Black Lives Matter, does that ring a bell to anyone? The Proud Boys, does that ring a bell to anyone? All of these non-governmental organizations that have been funded by the likes of George Soros to come and just be agents of chaos out here in the streets have made this a reality. What I just read you, this is what we've seen happen in like the past 10 to 15 years. Among these recruits to fascist community control gangs and counter gangs of terrorists who propagate crime and mutual terroristic confrontations with both sides under the control and direction of the behind-the-scene intelligence operatives. This programmed insurgency of gangs and counter-gangs mixed with doses of police-controlled terrorist gangs create the political conditions in which the majority of the population are more readily tolerates or even demands various degrees of military and police government, thus creating your democratic fascist regime. And that's why I am going full libertarian on this. Like, we don't need it. Go arm yourself and learn how to use. Get together with your local people and form a community. There were some people that did that, I believe, in like Oklahoma or Arkansas, and I believe like they were called like white supremacists because it was like a bunch of, they just happened to be white families that got together to organize so that they could be safer in numbers. And the government does not, like Ruby Ridge, David Koresh, they act like he was just some crazy religious leader guy. I question that. Now, I could be wrong. He could have been the pedo that they say that he was. Maybe, I don't know. But as far as I was concerned, he was minding his own damn business on his own damn land. And, you know, the feds just came in there, set the place ablaze, unalived women, children. I mean, you know, and Ruby Ridge, I don't even remember the details of any of that, but like, Google it. Okay, number 2, eliminate through subversion, assassination, military intervention, embargoes, or popular and spontaneous uprisings the regime that has outlived its usefulness, and appoint democratic civilian government. The appointed democratic government can now function only within the limits defined for by its representatives of the supranational agencies. The specific topics towards the establishing of fascism with a democratic face are as follows. Number 1, area population psychological studies. I find that to be very interesting because we're coming down with these little 15-minute cities, and the Dago forecast dropped off at 2026. I think that the whole corona apocalypse thing was a eugenics program. It was trying to get people to like voluntarily poison themselves with that shot. And now, I mean, how many people have dropped dead because of it? How many millions of people? How many more have cancer now? How many more have other, what's the word? God, my brain is not working. Other, immune diseases or whatever. Okay. Area population psychological studies. During World War II, the Anglo-American Psychological Warfare Services developed a number of studies of specific neurotic susceptibilities of various national cultures. The most famous of these was the so-called Strategic Bombing Survey. It was conceived as a basis for coordinating Allied bombing of Germany with propaganda and other psychological warfare campaigns against the morale of various enumerated strata of the Third Reich's population, end quote, and was the precursor of the CIA-led Vietnam's Operation Phoenix, end quote, which was a Schmennicide operation in South Vietnam against supporters of the Viet Cong. In a nutshell, Strategic Bombing Survey mapped out the best ways to destroy the morale of the civilian population at the lowest cost. And that's how you know there's a J behind it, baby. They're sitting there, rubbing their hands together, counting their shekels, and plotting on the rest of us because we're just goy. You know, we're not human. We don't deserve to live. We don't have souls according to them. Go read a Talmud. No, go to is it the Christian Barbarian? I think he literally spent his hard-earned money and bought I mean, there's obviously endless volumes of this Talmud, but he bought like some of the main ones where like it states very plainly that they believe that it's okay for a grown J man to copulate with a 3-year-old or less goy child. That's part of their religion, guys. And y'all are sitting here sending them fucking money and praying for them. Get out of here. You're disgusting. Okay. Number 2, the media. The use of control of major media, news, and cultural media as instruments of inducing desired forms of partial insanity among large populations. In general, by controlling the editorial policies, the news slant concerning national and international issues, the key news agencies and main mass circulating media determine what the population generally knows and considers credible. And isn't that unfortunate? Because everyone is retarded now. Deliberate and habitual falsification of the information as a way of creating, quote, desensitization effects in the mass population by causing the socially accredited interpretation of the cause-effect relations to violate sensuous, rational interpretation of experience. This is furthermore is supplemented by the introduction of programmed subliminal psychological material whose predetermined effect is to accentuate infantile impulses among targeted portions of the population, such as human interest stories, which are relatively more gratifying to the infantile impulses and which de-emphasize a rational and scientific overview, end quote. Yeah, so like all these, you know, stories, these inspirational stories about, you know, the pets and the dogs and the, you know, the retarded girl that like got her driver's license or whatever, like, this is what they want you focusing on. Touchy-feely, infantile BS. And I'm not saying, like, don't care about people. Obviously, yes, care about people. Pray for people, whatever. But, like, is it Jesus or is it Paul in the Bible that says, be sober and watchful, for your enemy roams around like a lion seeking whom he may devour. Does the term synagogue of Satan ring a bell to anyone? Ugh. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here and let's go to, I'm going to go ahead and upload because I've been trying to do like 45 minutes at a time. So we got to part like 3 of this list. Well, no, we'll go ahead and finish reading the list. All right. Number 3, local community control. The object of local community control as a fascist counterinsurgency tactic is to fragment the subject population into relatively hermetic political groupings, end quote. And this is what I was saying, the Delphi technique. That's what it's called. Rosa Corey, she worked for like the waterworks or something in California, right? And then little by little, in dealing with some of these people that were trying to like buy up all of the land and stuff in California for this, quote, Agenda 2021, which has now been pushed back to Agenda 2030, okay, that they were, it was a huge land grab that she realized. I think she worked for like the tax commissioner's office or something for the land holder, whatever, for like San Francisco, San Bernardino, I can't remember. But YouTube, look up Rosa, it's R-O-S-A, Corey, K-O-I-R-R-E. She was literally exposing this, and this is what they're saying, local community control. They, even if you go and you have a town hall, I guarantee you there is an agent of chaos in there utilizing something called the Delphi technique so that it totally, you know, derails the whole point of everyone getting together and voting on something, derails it, and then things are passed that were fought and did not want to be passed by the townsfolk, okay? Okay, narrowing the scale of the groups by separations according to race, sex, language, background, regional background, national origin, recreational interest, age groups, and neighborhood. What did I tell you? They're dividing and conquering. Quote, setting such groups into competition against each other under the conditions of general austerity is an effective Lewinite technique for inducing self-brainwashing among these groups and progressive psychological deterioration toward polymorphous, perverse pseudo-families and outright clinical psychosis. Yeah, dude. some of these people, you know, let's all hold hands and chant the "We Are the World" motherfuckers. Like, no, no. You know, we don't all believe the same thing. We are not all brothers in arms, and we're not all gonna hold hands and chant. All right. Some people are fucking evil, and we don't want nothing to do with them. Y'all, please excuse my language in this episode. This is pissing me off, bro. It's pissing me off. Quote, the first degree of brainwashing is accomplished by setting, quote, local community autonomy, end quote, into principled opposition to, quote, big business, technology, and progressive programs, end quote, meant to improve the lives of people within the community. Quote, programs with an emphasis on technological advancement are denounced as efforts of outsider elitist groups to interfere in the autonomous affairs of the local group. At that point, the, quote, community group has become functionally semi-psychotic and clinically paranoid as a group. And see, I feel like that's a little bit gaslighty because, like, this, what was that immigration law? It was like something for, where they were letting all these Indian people in here for all the tech jobs. That's not a psychosis. Like, we're literally being invaded as we speak, and they're standing here and telling us it's not happening. That's not psychosis. That's called gaslighting. You're gaslighting people. All right. To the extent that the member restricts their social identity to within such a group, the effort to adjust to the group ideals induces corresponding pathological states in the member. Quote, by setting such groups into competition and by splitting the group internally through sex, race, income, etc., the paranoia is intensified. The movement towards semi-psychotic is increased. End quote. As smaller and smaller subgroups within the community find themselves in cutthroat hostility toward one another. Kind of reminds me of my job. Number 4. The application of task-oriented small group brainwashing techniques to leaderless groups. Quote, these groups operate on the basis of an environment, end quote, of reduction in real income levels and working conditions. Under the conditions of austerity, the brainwashing consists in getting the workers, quote, to make up for part of the lost standard income rates by ingeniously speeding themselves up, end quote, by recycling the employed and unemployed and large-scale relocation programs of introduction of, quote, group work incentives and performance reward competition among competing groups transforms the small production team into a potentially self-brainwashing group. Quote, under these conditions, semi-psychosis and psychosis cause the group to voluntarily attain degrees of intensification of labor which cannot be forced from sane labor. The members of such self-brainwashing leaderless group work teams emulate the racehorse syndrome, driving hysterically toward literally suicidal work pace. Tavistock Institute and University of Pennsylvania are two of the best-known centers where such experimental practices. That's an incomplete sentence. But anyways, okay. It just made me think of like so much, dude. So much. Like, people are literally being brainwashed into self-destruction. It's crazy. And, you know, it's like we try to stay busy fighting the man, and the devil is just so much busier, and he's so much more subtle, you know. So anyways, I'm gonna stop this, I'm gonna upload it, and then I'm gonna keep reading.